Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. See, the topic of education is something that's very interesting. And today I want to just take you through the journey of what education really means, the origin of education, and is education really relevant in the context of what we understand as education. So in order to really understand the background of education, we need to go to history a little bit. See, the origin of education in the past was that you learn your parents trade. So your parent was a farmer, you learn the farmer trade. If your father was a cobbler, you learn the cobbler's trade. And you learn the family's trade, and they had a lot of family time. Children had more time to play, and they learned through discovery. They kept on discovering things. And then later what happened is that they needed some more of formal education. Therefore they sent them to a guru. In India they used to send them to the Gurukul. And the Gurukul actually teaches them on spiritual life, how a man becomes a man, and therefore you have gurus like Confucius and all that coming from eras like that. Then something happened. We had the Industrial Revolution. Now the Industrial Revolution came and it wiped out a lot of the farms. So people who were once farmers started to become factory workers, working in factories for a 9 to 5 fixed salary. Now this is what happened. As the factories grew, the thing is that women also started working in the factory. Yeah, there's no farm to do anything with, so the women started going to factory. And as a result of that, the children were actually neglected. So what do you do with the children? The children once upon a time had a farm to work in, they had a place to play, but this time they don't have a place right now. Where do you put them? Simple, put them in the factory as well. So they started becoming child labor. In the early days of factories, children were allowed to work over there. But there was a problem with children working, is that they are not as fast or as agile as the adult, and their dexterity may not be there to do certain work. So therefore they created the system called the school, whereby the factories will start a school. The purpose of the school is to educate them in terms of discipline. So they gave them all uniforms. All of you follow the rules, don't question, and stand in line and do things as how we would want you to do one day when you finish school and end up in the factory. And then what happened was, they taught them mathematics, science. So let's educate them a little bit so that when they come out later, they can be a little bit more better than their parent. And that was the foundation of schools. But the thing is, the people who came out, they became creative. They became more complex. As they became more complex, they created new knowledge, and then the hell went to the next generation, where they had to figure out all these things, all these jargons, all these terminologies, all the mathematical formulas, and the world became much, much complex. Now as a result of that, the load of information started going to the younger generation and the younger generation. So what happened? You started having more heavier school bags, and children started carrying heavier school bags, and as a result of carrying heavier school bags, some companies got creative. They came up with better designs of school bags where you can carry all your books with less the pain on your shoulders. Now the question is this, what is all this for? All these studies, all the education that you're doing here, so that one day you can go there, look for a job, put your resume and ask for a 9 to 5 job. Now, let's just stop somewhere there and let's rethink. Do we need to jam-pack information for people to learn? In current context, if you want to know some information, all you have to do is Google it. You want to know about health? Google it. You want to know about science? Google it. You want to know about sex? Google it as well. And there's a whole lot of information out there. In this cartoon, the guy is trying to look for his keys, and he said, let me Google it, and he says, behind your couch. Okay? So the thing is, all the information is already out there. We need to get children to go out and get this information. Now I'd like to introduce this guy, Professor Sugata Mitra. He did a very interesting experiment. What he did was, he took computers, they call it the experiment hole in the wall. He took these computers, started putting it in rural areas, and just with a mouse and a screen, without a keyboard, and just let the children figure out. Guess what happened? The children figured out. After about a couple of weeks, they started figuring out how to switch on Microsoft Paint, and then they opened Microsoft Word, and they were starting to type, and he was asking how these people learn to type. There was a virtual keypad that not many people who have been using Microsoft all this while know exists within Microsoft Word, and they were starting to type and all that. Where is all this heading to? See, the world is changing so fast that the knowledge out there is actually in your pockets and in your palm. With a smartphone today, the entire world information is within reach. So if that is true, today we can get all the information that we want. Is it still necessary for us to jam-pack information into children's head and then expect them to pour it out during an examination? Because that's how the traditional approach to education is. So what is the solution? I mean, all this is fine. What's the solution? I'd like to introduce you to a concept where it goes back to the ancient way of how people learn, and that's homeschooling. I'm a homeschooling parent. Both of my kids are being homeschooled, and the concept of homeschooling is that we educate them through a process of discovery. We put them in an environment where they can actually discover learning through their own initiative. That means through experiment, through digging things up, and therefore they learn in a much better way. The questions they ask, we provide the answers for the question, rather than giving them the information that we think they should actually have. So the concept of homeschooling is learning through discovery. Other than discovery, we can actually have group discussions, and we also encourage them to read. Now, how do we read? How do you teach children to read? Don't give them a book and ask them to read. Fill up the whole bookcase with books and turn off the TV. You know what? They'll figure it out. They'll pick up a book and they'll start reading. So the whole process is actually through learning, through discovery. And why do we want to do this? Because the world does not need all the information right now. We need to teach children how to go and get the information when they need, so that they can be a better individual as the future unfolds, and more than that, they will at least have a memorable childhood that they can be happy about. Thank you.